So yeah, man. So we are live, and so this is kind of cool. I don't know if this. Let me see if this video is going to automatically start to play. Like I just don't want this thing to start blaring. Like oh,
Like, hey.
exactly. Hey, we're live, everybody. But yeah, so we're live, and so people are pouring in, which is crazy. Like I said earlier, dude, we had my gosh, man, we had over 1,000 people that just opted in over the last couple days to be here. So clearly, man, people want to hear what you have to say about funnels, and I don't know if people were expecting like an MMA wrestle jiu-jitsu match head to head Russell against Todd, but just for the record, Russell is the wrestling dude. I'm not the guy there, but so first and foremost, Russell, man, like, I know we were talking before we went live, but I appreciate you taking time out of your crazy schedule, dude, to hang out with me and be here and talk about funnels and all that stuff, dude. So thank you, man, and welcome.
Heck yeah, it's an honor. I mean, I've been studying you for ever since you were back. I don't know if I even told you this before, like you worked with Rich or anything. When you had all your other sales funnels, I was studying that stuff clear back then. I think that's how I first initially met you. So I love your stuff that's probably 7 or 8 years ago or more. So I'm grateful. It's a huge honor for me to be here hanging out with you and with everybody who's hanging out with us. So it's kind of fun.
Cool, man. And I feel the same about you, dude. Massive respect. And so there's like a huge amount of stuff that we're gonna, that I want to talk about, right? This is the first time that we're doing any kind of live, hangout together. And so, talk to me a little bit, man, just about and share with everybody, like, and for everybody, this isn't scripted. There's nothing in front of me. There's nothing in front of Russell, right? There's nothing being pitched. There's nothing for sale. For those of you that haven't gotten, your free copy of his book yet, you're crazy if you don't click the button below and grab it. You're nuts. I'm gonna kind of share I'm gonna be talking about this later on, just how I devoured this thing on the plane ride to
Cool.
San Diego, man. But talk a little bit about how you like why you started focusing on funnels just in your own business. Like, how did that whole focus, because there's so many things, man, that you can focus on as an entrepreneur, as especially an online, entrepreneur. What was it about funnels, man, that made you realize like that's where your focus needed to be?
Actually, let me show you something. This will help illustrate it. I got one of these right here. So when I got started, this is how unscripted we are. I was not planning on doing this, but so I had this in my backpack. So when I got started, this was my first info product I ever made. Like people always believe me it's true, but like this is it. I still have copies of them here in the office. It was how to make a potato gun, and I had this, and I went through like Frank's underachiever thing like back in the day, and I was like, oh cool. So I did a potato gun one. I did a bunch of other ones, and so that was like my first little products. And it's funny. One day, Mike Filsame, a friend of both of ours, called me up and he was like, hey man, we have these upsells. We call them OTOs, one-time offers, the back of our sales funnels. And he's like 20 to 30% people who buy the first thing are buying the second thing. And this is before one-click upsells. So like they had to fill out the credit card once, then fill it out again on every page.
I remember.
Yeah, I was like, are you serious? So I went back to I went to my potato gun site. I went to all these sites and went back and I added an upsell. And I didn't even know what to put. Like usually it was like some random like second thing, and I just put something else there. But even with that, people kept buying the upsells. I was like, that is cool. Like I remember literally like my potato gun one, my business doubled by adding one page after they bought this to buy the next thing. I was like, one page double my business. Like, like, is there any other pages I can put up there? Like, what else?
Yeah.
What else is possible? And that's just kind of where it started. And then for me, I got addicted to buying other people's stuff. And I look behind you with your bookshelf. That's what mine looks like in the other office. Like I buy everything things, and half it's like because I want the product, and half it's because I just like seeing the process. Like, what are they doing, and why are they doing it, and what are they asking me, and in what order are they asking it, and I'll buy some people's products 5 or 6 times because there's different paths based on what you buy, and I want to see all the things, and I just became obsessed with that. And every time I see a cool idea, I'm like, oh, let me try that on my little websites, and I go back to mine and I plug something in that was similar and things like that, and that's how I started doing it. Just, I got obsessed with it. It was just so much fun to find things. Like we put like one of the things we did. This is probably and probably 6 years ago, we had these order forms, and we had a spot where people filled out the order form, and then right before the order form, we had this little, we call them order form bumps, like a little like offer, like, hey, do you also want this?
Right.
The first time we did that, 65% of people who filled my order form clicked that button, and it was just like an extra $97 every single sale, and I was like, that took me 30 seconds to put in there, like what other things are, like little things like that are there even out there? So we just kept trying them and playing with things, and it's just fun. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's crazy. But so let me ask you this, man. So, why not, like, why that and not, content marketing? Why that and not, like SEO? Like, what was it about, and is it about that continues to draw the lion's share of your focus, man, and not like, blogging 3 times a week, and not, SEO, and not article distribution and video distribution? Like, why not that stuff, and why this?
Okay, that's a good question. So I think part of it, and I hate admitting this, but part of me, I'm not smart enough for most of those other things, like Google and SEO and PPC. Like, I never could get those things. And I remember a really good example of this is our supplement. Some of you guys have heard about our supplement. We actually sold a company 10 days ago, so I no longer have a supplement company. But we launched it officially about a year and a half ago. And for the first 6 months, it was us playing with funnels and trying to get it to work. And we would drive traffic and it just couldn't working. And as soon as we got like the funnel perfect, like it was interesting. We got our funnel perfect. We did a test, and the first test I remember it tripled over. So I spent $1,000 and made $3,000. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." So I called a couple people who are geniuses at all those things. I said, "Hey, I got this funnel. I spent $1,000 and made $3,000. Like, can you do anything with that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And the first guy jumps in there. This is like on a Wednesday, right? And he drives a little traffic, and he's like, "Okay, this funnel works." He's like, "How? Like, what's my limit?" I'm like, "I don't know what you mean." He's like, "Tell me my limit." And I'm like, "I don't want you to have limits. Like blow it up, man." And he's like, "Okay." Right. So this is Memorial Day weekend of last year. During Memorial Day weekend, he spent $100,000 of my money. I didn't even know. I come back on Monday, and I'm like, "What in the world?" And it was profitable, luckily. But he completely sold out all of our inventory that we had for the next like 3 months, like gone in one day. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So we had like inventory management, and I can't tell you the headaches. But I realized, like, if I get the funnel right, traffic will just come. Like there's so much of it out there, and I don't have to be a genius at it. I can hire people. I can plug in people. There's a ton of stuff. But the hardest thing is that, not the hardest, but the funnel is the most important part. Like, if you get that right, everything else just magically works, as you know. Yeah. And you can turn traffic on and it just works. And so for me, it wasn't like, let's write more articles, because that's just hard and it's untestable. I don't even know if it's going to work. Whereas if I can perfect this and also it works, like right now, as you know, with our book funnel, we're averaging about $32 for every book we give away in through the funnel, which now I know I can go to Facebook and Google and spend $32 to acquire a new customer and still be break even or profitable. And that makes life easy at that point.
That's the whole game, right? I mean, like, that's, it's funny because I love to hear the way other marketers articulate and kind of share the value of being able to pay for traffic, the value of media buying versus, organic versus, free stuff. And the reality is, when, like, in Chicago, I went out for a mastermind, and the bulk of the mastermind were folks in the content world, and so I was kind of the odd man out. And it was interesting. It was cool to see and hear other perspectives and to see inside other people's businesses and what they were doing and how they were doing it and why they were doing it. But what was interesting to me was, and kind of I was fascinated by, like, this, when they would say things like, we published a post, and we got more page views than any other post we've ever published before, or we reduced our bounce rate, we cut our bounce rate in half. And I was always the one like, hey, how did that impact your bottom line? How did that impact your sales? And what do you do when you find a post that, let's say, is working, whatever that means for you guys, and you want to scale it up, right? You want to acquire more customers from that asset. And they looked at me like, well, we really can't do that, and I was like, well, I don't even understand the mindset of, then how do you measure the value of your activities, of your actions? How do you know what a new blog post is is worth. And it was just very bizarre to me. And so, you know, I completely agree with you. Like, I always share with clients this idea that, you know, like, and it was something that many years ago, Rich Sheffrin first shared with me. We were over a cup of coffee in a Starbucks little cafe area in a Barnes and Noble in Boca Raton, and he said to me, plain and simple, and this forever shifted my perspective. He said, until you can afford to pay for traffic, until you can afford to use media, pay for media to acquire customers, you don't have a business. All you have is a promotion. If you're reliant on affiliates, if you're reliant on JV partners, if you're reliant on these big public launches, you don't have a business. You have a promotion. And when those things disappear because people flake out, because partners promise you XYZ and they deliver on a quarter of that, or they stop promoting you, or whatever, your business evaporates overnight. Or if you're relying on SEO, right, you're relying on rankings, and all of a sudden Google changes their algorithm and you go from number 1 to number 101 and your business disappears overnight, you know, whereas with paid traffic, right, it's controllable. Like you say, it's controllable, it's scalable. I couldn't imagine trying to do it any other way, and so I love hearing you kind of share the same thing, man.
I interviewed a guy, man, probably 10 years ago now when I first got started. He had a supplement company that made $100 million in a year and a half, and it was all offline. I remember he in my interview I talked about like his online experience. He's like, I hate the internet. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, on the internet I feel like I'm in a Ferrari on a dead end road. He's like, and it just stops. And that's what like your examples of bloggers that think about, like, yeah, you do a blog, all of a sudden I got, you know, X amount of visitors really quick, and then boom, dead end road. It just ends. And it's like, that's not fun. Like, you know, like riding a Ferrari, I got one. It's not that fun on a dead end road. You're like, all right, now what? I turn back around, write another blog post. You know, where like you said, you get the thing right, and there's this highway, and you can go for as long as hard as you can run with it. And that's what's nice, because I mean, you could, even my company, man, 5 years ago, we were a launch-based company where every month we're doing a new launch, you know. And I look at in the last 2 years, I think this book launch is the first like real launch I've actually probably 4 years, first launch we've done. Like everything else has been off sustainable media that just fuels things, and it's such a, I sleep so much better at night, and I don't have to like beg people for favors. And it's a better way to live.
It's a game. I mean, I hate to use a cliche or, you know, a trite phrase, but it really is a game changer. I mean, I remember, I know, like you, I know and remember vividly what it was like when you didn't know where the next $1,000 or $10,000 was going to come from. Like, you had to hustle to make it work, and it was this constant what's next in terms of promotion, in terms of launch, in terms of product. And yeah, man, that is not fun. That is not exciting. That's not, you know, that was never my dream. That's for sure, man, for this type of business. And so what do you think, man, like it takes mindset wise to go from the typical mentality, maybe the marketer who's like, you know, the one-off, you know, the launch, or the, you know, the JV affiliate, like, or even the content dude or gal, like, what does it take, you think, mentally, man, to make that shift from that to like to where, you know, we're fortunate and blessed to be at today, to that evergreen, reliable, consistent day in and day out? What do you think it takes mentally, man?
That's a good question. I remember actually making that transition. I remember because we were making a bunch of income that we consciously said, look, no more JVs, no more affiliates, like we're shifting everything. And like our income went woo, and it was like soaring down, and like it's scary. Like like, oh man, like we gotta like steer this up, and we're not gonna be able to pay rent or pay, you know, all this stuff. And luckily for us, we got it. And we kind of figured we were able to turn around. And I think the biggest problem people have is like when you do an affiliate launch, you're spoiled, right? You do a promotion, you sell $100,000 of stuff, you keep 50, affiliates get 50, and you made a bunch of money, right? With paid media, a lot of times it's not necessarily that way, and that's why in the book I talk about like front end funnels versus back end funnels. And I still, with my coaching clients, I drill this in their head all the time, and they still, I don't think most of them still get it. Like we've got multiple funnels, right? We got front end funnels, we got middle funnels, we got back end funnels, and my real thing you have to understand is like if I have a front end funnel, my only goal in that funnel is to break even. Like if I can break even, for me, I'm like, boom, that's $1 million campaign. Like we can just, because now all those leads I can transition from funnel one over to back end other funnels, and you're profitable there. But you have to, and the problem is that when you're driving ads and you're spending $1 and you make $1 and you break even, you're used to doing affiliate stuff where you get way more money really fast. There's this time where it's like there's this time where at first you're not making as much money, but if you stay the course and you keep doing that, you start generating leads, you're building goodwill, and all of a sudden then there's this tipping point. Like for us, all of a sudden just like boom, it transitioned, and our list, our followers become more faithful because we've we're not promoting tons of other stuff. You're able to work with them more and help them and serve them more, and they become better clients. Everything else is better. But there's that transition point where at first you got to realize you're not trying to make money. And if you do break even or you do make a profit on the front, that's cool, but that's not. So many of the people I work with where they'll launch a new funnel and they're like, oh, I spent $5,000 and I only made $6,000. I'm like, that's a win. Like that's huge. Like
right.
You got 2,000 new leads and you got paid $1,000 to get those leads. Like
right.
Like that's what you have to get. When you grasp that and you make that the focus, as opposed to like, can you make $100,000 next launch or $500,000 next, whatever that thing is, and you switch it to, I need to break even or get paid to generate leads, and then figure out how to serve those leads long term. That's when it changes. That's when it changed for us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think that I love the way you put it. It's like, and it's kind of funny, right? Because we have such a similar perspective and thought process and understanding of how you build a direct response business the right way. And I love what you said, right? Like you've got to shift. You've got to shift in terms of looking at. Not every transaction serves the same purpose in your business, right? Like a back-end transaction serves a different purpose strategically than does a front-end transaction, right? When done the right way, like you said, man, the front end is all about maximum customer acquisition. It's not about, generating profit. Like where the typical mom and pop, the typical business owner, they look at every transaction as it serves the same purpose. We want to generate X amount of profit or X percentage of every transaction, regardless of whether it's the first one with a prospect turning them into a customer or it's the third transaction with a customer. It's supposed to serve the same purpose, which is X% profit. When, in direct response, it's about understanding the difference first and foremost between front end and back end, and not just the difference in terms of what they are, but the difference in the purpose that they serve, right? And it's understanding that the business that we're in is the back end, right? The back end is the business. That's where all the money comes from, that the profit comes from in this business. The hardest, most difficult part, the front end, is all about maximum customer acquisition. It's not about maximizing profit. It's not about profit. We start out very similar to you, Russell, with our clients in talking about like it is about maximum customer acquisition at break even. In some cases, right, it's when your company matures and you've got the cash flow, then it becomes, right, how aggressive can you be in terms of going negative? When you understand that a customer's worth $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 to you, of course you're going to be willing, or you should be willing to fork over an extra $100. In other words, to go negative, if you will, 100 on the front to acquire an asset that's worth $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. And so I think that, man, what you said is spot on. In that you got to, it's that shift in understanding the difference between the front end and the back end. And I think and I know we're gonna talk about it. I think, man, let me take a right turn for just 1 second and say for everybody, and I don't say this lightly, like, right, for everybody that's here, especially those of you that have been around me for any significant length of time, I don't say what I don't mean. I don't pander to anybody. I don't sugarcoat like things for the sheer sake of putting a smile on your face. That's that I don't see that as my role. I think that I do you a disservice if I say things that you want to hear, or I say things to please other people. Obviously, it goes without saying, you could see, and that goes that down there, that bookshelf. I'm an avid reader, this is this is one of the best marketing books that I've possibly ever read, and I've read them all the best ones. This is, when I say that this is one of the most, first of all, one of the most spot on books in terms of, if there was any book that is aligned with my beliefs based on my experience in the trenches, it's this book. And I said, Russell, it's kind of funny. And so I share that because for those of you that are on that haven't gotten a copy of this book yet, you're crazy if you don't go get this book. And whether that's you go below, you click the link below and you go order it, yeah, that's my affiliate link, or you wait and you go and you order it, you pay for it through Amazon, you'd be crazy not to get this book. When I first went through this, and I know Russell, Russell was cool enough to give me a copy, to send me a copy with my T-shirt, which I wear proudly. And I went through it. I put the book down, and I was like, I can't believe that Russell put this stuff in a book. I was almost like, my God, I'm gonna have to rethink my business because of what is shared in this book. And I don't say that lightly. I really don't, man. And so for those of you that don't have it, go get it. It's free. You just pay shipping. You'd be freaking crazy not to. To get it. I share that in this context because Russell talks about the front end, the back end, the difference, understanding the purpose, stuff that is just critical. So let's get back to talking about front end, back end for a second, and talk a little bit, man, about I want to understand your psychology, your thinking when you're designing a funnel that's going to be a front end funnel compared to when you're designing a funnel that's going to be a back end funnel. What's the difference in what are you thinking? How are you thinking differently when you're sitting down and you're planning out your front end and your back end? How are you thinking differently about what you're going to say, what the pieces are going to be, what the element, talk a little bit about that, man.
Cool. Yeah, that's such a good question. No one asks stuff like that, so thank you. I respect you so much just for even asking something like that. That's cool. So for me, the front end's got a couple purposes, right? One of my goals of the front end is to repel the people I do not want to be in my business, right? When I first got started in my business, I didn't ever think about who my dream clients were or anything. I was just like, hey, anyone gives me money, I'll take it. Found out after 5 or 6 years that that makes you miserable. If you take everyone's money, you will be miserable. And so, for example, this is an example of one of our front end offers, right, that we put out there, and it's a book called 108 Proven Split Test Winners. And what's cool about this is, for me, the client that it's not my dream client, is the business opportunity seeker, how to make a ton of money, how to be a millionaire on the internet. Those clients stress me out. They I don't want them. And so if they saw something like this, 108 split test winners, they're like, I don't get it, and boom, it repels them, right? It's like water off a duck's back. They're gone. But for my dream client, the person I want to work with, someone who's got a business, wants to scale the business, this speaks to them. They see that and they're like, whoa, I see what that is. So it's all about that. It's the goal is to repel who you don't want and attract your dream people. I talked in chapter 1 about that a lot. We need to identify who our dream customers are. Otherwise, how do we attract them? Okay, if you don't know who they are and know exactly who you want to work with, how can you create the bait you need to get that person to come in, right? Mm-hmm. So it's all about, for me, I'm always thinking who's my dream person? What's the bait that person that's going to get that person and make them want to come towards me? Okay, if I'm going fishing, I got to put the right bait on to get the right kind of fish. Same thing with marketing, is I got to know exactly who I want, and then from there I can craft bait to grab that person and bring them in. So that's kind of my first thought. What's interesting now in my front end funnels, the first time I got this was with this book. When we launched it, this book's all about split testing and conversions and stuff like that. And so I was like, when someone buys this, they're interested in split testing, right? So I'm like, okay, so I had all these upsells that were about split testing. But the problem is and I didn't realize this till the third time I rebuilt the funnel. It took me 3 times. First time I had split test upsells. Second time I had split test upsells with better copy. Third time I tried something completely different. And the third time it worked. And what I found is that when someone's got a problem, right, they come to your website and they want to learn how to lose weight. So they buy your front end product about how to lose weight. In their mind, there's this, they have an itch, right? and they just bought your product, and for them they just scratch that itch like, okay, good. Whew, I haven't lost weight yet, but I got the books. Now I'm good to go. I'm not gonna ever be fat again, right? And so if your next upsell is like, hey, I heard you're overweight, you want to lose some weight? You're like, no, I just took care of that. I bought the book. I'm good to go. But so what you have to do is you structure your offers in your initial sequence to like, what's the next thing they need? Like, if I just bought like how to lose weight, now I know how to lose weight. What's the next step? Like, well, next step is like you got to go to the grocery store and buy food. Like, let me show you how to buy the right foods to maintain this weight. And all of a sudden, like, that's now a logical bridge where, oh yeah, I do need that as well.
Right.
For us, we had to shift this from more conversion stuff to then traffic, and then the upsells now they complemented and they strengthened the sell, and when we did that, it just boom changed everything. So that's how I look at like the initial front end offers, and my goal with that, I like low ticket as you know, because it gets people in the door, and then I transition now to back end selling. The back end selling for me is like I look at a front end product is to get somebody in my door and try to build an amazing relationship with them quick, right? That's why we gave away this book for free. That's why I give away this book for free now. Is I want you guys to get this and read it and be like, have the same. And honestly, when I first said this to you and some other people, I was nervous to like what my peers would think about it. Like I think like, oh, that's dumb, and so like I love your response. So I want my customers, I want them to get this book and read it and be like, are you kidding me? Like this is amazing. Okay, so my front end offer, the goal is to build this relationship where they're like, they have a wow experience, and then I transition to my back-end funnels. They are, I mean, you've seen my back-end funnels. I know you've got a back-end funnel that's very similar as well. Like it's more emotional based, more like them bonding with me. This is to get them introduced and trying to get them to think I'm cool, and then it's like let me share with you an emotional story that kind of takes you down the path and how I can serve you to get the result you actually want. So my coaching funnels, I mean, I cry in the videos. There's all these things, but I'm trying to have this emotional connection because my end goal in business, like, yeah, I want to make money, but it's really about serving people, and I want them to feel that and to know that, like this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. One of our clients, her video, if you guys watch the video on the free book page, at the very end, she's on there. Her name's Brittany. She helps people that have overeating problems, stuff like that, and she went through this process and she implemented this stuff, and for her it's like she has such a passion about helping people, like that's her real purpose. And so the back end funnel is about that, like letting people see, like, be vulnerable and like, this is why you're here, you bought my stuff, I hope you liked it, but I need to serve you, and this is how I can serve you the best. And that's kind of the transition for me to the upper levels. And so it's a lot less sales and a lot more just like we need to connect. If we connect, then that's the key. So
you've done a good job of that, man. That's for sure. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, man, I watched the video where you shared your story and got emotional, and I'm probably very similar to tons of other folks that you get feedback from, man. I got emotional. Just seeing you get emotional got me a little emotional, and so it was an interesting situation. I want to just mention something real quick that I hope that everybody picked up on, and then I want to talk a little bit about something that you said about the book. But I love how you talked about, and I think it's not talked about often enough, or at least not the way you shared it, and it's this idea of putting bait out, right? Like ultimately, if you use a lead magnet, if you whatever you're offering on the first page in your funnel, if it's your typical squeeze page, that it's bait, but it's not just bait to attract the client that you ultimately want to work with. It's also simultaneously bait that is repelling, that will repel the folks that you don't want to work with. So it's almost like it's not just bait to attract it's bait to attract a certain type of individual, and also simultaneously repel the folks that wouldn't be the right fit. So I love, like when I sat back and I first heard you talk about the whole split test book, and I loved how, like if you think about that, like you said, right, number one, it automatically attracts a higher level individual, somebody that's interested in split testing and test results, is thinking at a different level, is at a different experience level, and the individual that is brand new is looking for just a fast buck or a magic button. They're not interested in that. So it simultaneously is attracting the right individual and repelling the wrong individual. And so I thought that was that's cool, man. And so you said, so were you really legitimately nervous when you sent out the book? Like, and why were you nervous, man, sending it out to your peers? Like, I'm curious.
It's one of those things, like, I put so much my life, like, this is 10 years of me, like, earning this book, right? Going out there and, like, just and doing it and spending my own money and cutting my own, spending my own money on it. And so, and then it was the year of actually writing it and putting it together and trying to make it, and, like, I kept telling times we wrote it and rewrote it and trying to get it towards, like, it made sense, and it was interesting. It wasn't just like a boring book. There's storyline to it. Try to, and I don't know. And so it's always those things where you're just like, I was really proud of it. I'm like, what if Todd doesn't like it, or what if he completely disagrees, or he's like, no, that's not my experience. And it's funny because as I was finishing it up, I was actually listening to a podcast with you and with Brad Costanzo, and you were talking about the same thing I talked I can't even talk my head. I should find it in the book. Talking about the hot prospects versus cold and how they interact, and hold on, let me find it. And you were talking about that, and you kind of interpreted that concept a little bit differently than me, but it's still, here it is right here, the product awareness continuum.
Right.
And you were talking about it, but what's cool is that the way you thought about it was different than, like, you looked at it from a market standpoint, how a market transitions from thing to thing, and I never even looked at it that way. I always looked at it from a prospect, like where we're attracting the prospects from, and I was like, oh, it's just so cool that, like, you and I look at the same concept. We both got excited by it, but we both, like, interpreted different. And anyway, it was just kind of fun because I was in the middle of that process when I heard your podcast, and I was like, oh, cool. Like, anyway, it's just kind of fun for me.
That's funny, man. That's funny. And so, so are there other things, man, that when you create, because this is like something that I know, I get asked, or clients, bring it, coaching students and whatnot. And so, you've been at this a long time, years. You've had a lot of successes. You've had a lot of not so successful campaigns as I have myself, more than I care to admit. My gosh. Do you other things do you still get nervous about other things, about marketing campaigns that you create? Like,
oh yeah, I get nervous every time. I don't know about me, like, I put so much of my, like it's like I'm creating a baby, right? I'm putting the pieces together, so it's very emotional for me. I'm always, like, nervous, and then after you start driving, traffic numbers work out, I'm like, oh, like, because I still, even though, like, we've gotten, each time we do it, we start with, like, a new control, but we know kind of works, and we work off of that, so we get better and better each time. But I still get that. I still get the nerves. I don't know if do you get that as well, or you just kind of?
Yeah, no, I totally do. That's why I tell people, like, first of all, man, and I share this all the time. I tell people, like, first and foremost, right? I remember what it was like when I looked at some of the gurus, right? And I was enamored, like, and I was, like, I remember, whatever, just way back, just being enamored. And I tell, clients today, like, don't look at certainly don't look at me or any other guru as these superheroes that have all the answers, that never screw anything up, that never create a campaign that doesn't do well. Like, I'll be the first one to say, like, yeah, I may have more successes today than the average, or understand things on a different level, but yeah, man, I still do things that don't, they're not home runs. I still strike out. I know my buddy, our mutual friend Rich Sheffrin would happily, transparently tell you the same thing. And so, sure, I always, and let me tell you something, man. Like, I'd love to sit here and say that when I see a negative piece of feedback that I'm like, Matt Fury or something, and I'm just like, no big deal. But no, man, there are still things where I'm like, man, are you freaking kidding me? Like, and it'll still bother me. And so I think that, I share that in this context, man, because for everybody listening, like, don't think that you bring anything less to the table other than maybe experience and time than at least me, man. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny. I still get nervous, yes.
That makes me feel better. I didn't know if it was just me from the head kids or not.
So, So let me ask you this, man. Let's switch gears. And so yeah, so the book. So I've already said, like, and for everybody, that's gotten on, like if you don't get this book, you're freaking out of your mind. You really are. And it's kind of funny, because you know, like, right? I've said it, I have issues. I have demons, weird, crazy things in my head. But yeah, I was at first like jealous. Like I was like, damn, this is a good freaking book, man. Like this is um this is a good book. It's just it really is. It's so solid. And so like I look at it this way, like there are no doubt people that are thinking like, Todd, why would you recommend this book? Like if it shares so much good stuff, and it makes you, Russell, look like a genius. And the reality is that if I didn't, I would do you a disservice. Like, not you, Russell, but you, everybody listening. Like, the reality is, like, if you're in my tribe, you should read this book. And you know what? You should study Russell. And you know what? If that means that you go in and you join his tribe as well, good. Because I know that you'll just be that much more successful. And so it is, you should have it on your bookshelf and you should devour it. And for those of you that think like, look, if you can see this, this is, this is like, from beginning to end, if you can see this, highlighted, this, yeah. But so
how excited it gets me, like, to see someone highlighting my book. Like, for me, that's, it's awesome.
Right? Highlighting it, pondering it, sitting back and saying like, wow, I like the way that Russell, articulated this or stated this, and just, notes and yeah. And so, but let me ask you this, right? Because so I want to play devil's advocate for 1 second. And so I know that, right, you're a marketer, and so one of the things that I talk about, and I want to talk about it as it relates to this book. I often talk about like, right, like, look, getting transparent, getting real. There are a lot of things that don't get talked about, don't get presented to the market by other experts or by companies because it's difficult to sell. Like I remember, like, let me give you an example. I'm a big advocate and proponent of like, look, you got to have a rock solid hook for your funnel. You got to have a big idea. You got to develop a big idea, an idea behind your marketing message that's new, that's different, that's fresh, right? All stuff that I learned that was hammered into me by Mark Ford, right? Michael Masterson, the mastermind, if you will, behind Agora. And I remember Rich Sheffrin saying to me when I said to him, like, when I first came to him and I said, look, I want to start teaching the funnel stuff like that we've been doing. Like I want to bring it to the market. And he asked me, like, all right, so what's different about what you would teach? And I said to him, look, I want to talk to people about the strategic aspect of funnel design. I don't want to talk about price point and like, hey, you got to have an upsell and a downsell, and like, because there are other people that are teaching that are teaching great stuff. I want to talk about like, how do you design a message that sells? How do you develop an idea that cuts through the clutter in a market? And I remember him saying, dude, that's tough to sell. Like that's tough to sell because it's not, it's not, hey, follow these 3 steps. It's not as simple as saying, all right, do these 3 things. And I get that, right? I get it. I'm just such a believer in it that for me to not talk about that, I just couldn't do it. And so I know that there are other things that other experts, other companies don't present, don't sell, don't talk about because it's not exciting. It's not as sellable to the market as other concepts. In this context, is there anything that you didn't put in the book because you felt like it would be difficult for readers to understand, or it would be difficult for readers to execute on? Like, is there anything that you didn't include in here that you feel is still essential to building a successful business?
Um,
And if not, don't feel pressured to come up with something. Like, yeah, man, you know, if not, that's cool too.
No, when I was putting it together, like my goal was because it comes back to the whole like the repelling and attracting type thing. I know that like for like a business opportunity seeker, like I don't talk about how to start your own business in here, like because I didn't want this book to be about how to start an online business. Like that topic's been covered. Probably half those books are on your shelf, right? A lot of people covered that. Like that wasn't my goal. My goal was I've got a business. How now do I take that and grow it and scale and turn it into something real and sustainable? So that's why I picked up the story from there all the way to where I am in my business now, selling super high ticket, back end, high expensive things. And so as far as things we left out, we didn't talk about how to start. We didn't specifically talk about a lot of tactics, like tactics of ways to generate traffic specifically. I wanted to focus on things that were evergreen, so that if you read this book now or in a year from now, it's still 100% relevant. But as far as like, did I hold things back? I don't think I did at all. I showed I showed you what we were doing. In fact, before we and this is something I don't know if you even know about this. Before I wrote this book, I did an event for all of my my 15 and my $35,000 clients, and we did a 3-day event here in Boise. And I went through the outline of the book, and I sat down and I taught it for 3 days to them, which was good for me because it gave me the ability to like realize I need to change some things and reorder them, and that became like the framework for us writing the book. And when you guys buy the book, I actually give you that entire 3-day event. All the videos are in the members area that you get for free. But it was kind of the framework, and so I took that group through first to make sure it worked, make sure that it made sense, was the right order, and again we did shift things around for the book. But I feel like when all is said and done, like if you've got something, some kind of business right now, whether it's an affiliate business, a network marketing, internet marketing, a supplement, if you're a real estate, whatever it is, you can take this and now this will pick up and help you now to scale that and to grow. And that was kind of the goal when we got started.
Very cool, man. And I really believe that. I believe that you didn't hold back. Like I mean, if you did, my gosh, I don't know what else you could do. Like
I told people like you seriously told everything. Like well,
you did. I'm like this is great. Like I'm like phenomenal. I got to rework my entire business now because it's that good, and it really is that good. And so. And so let's shift gears a little bit. And so let's talk a little bit about Clickfunnels. And so kind of talk a little bit, man, about about why you even engaged in really what made you start to even think about building or having Clickfunnels built.
Yeah. Well, first off, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the partners I have that did the actual work to build Clickfunnels. Without them, all of us are like, hey, let's make this thing, but it's not possible. I'm lucky to have 2 programmers, partners, Todd Dickerson and Dylan Jones, who built the entire infrastructure. So I'm grateful and lucky for that, first off. But 18 months ago, and I've been doing events for 10 years teaching this concept of funnels, and we would do 3 events where day 1 I teach the concepts, day 2 they would, architect, day 3, each person would get up in a room and sketch down the whiteboard their funnel. So I've been doing that for 10 years. The problem is they leave with here's our funnel design. They go home and they're like, now what? Now you go hire some dude in India and a designer, and our success rate unfortunately wasn't nearly what I want it to be because there was so much stuff. And so anyway, 18 months ago, Todd lives in Atlanta and he flies out here about once a quarter to hang out with us, just to figure out new projects, what we want to do on things. And so he was flying out here and he landed here in Boise, and we had this project, this webinar software we've been working on. It was halfway done, and anyway, we sat down and we said, what would it look like if we were to build what became Clickfunnels? What would it actually look like? Just kind of dreaming, right? We're writing on the board it'd be cool if we did this, and just kind of mapped out this concept. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. Good luck with that. And he's like, no, I think I can do the back end part of it. And so after Boise, he kind of did all his nerdy, geeky things and structured out the databases and all this stuff, whatever I don't know he does. And he went back home and he was building it, and he spent 3 or 4 months building it. And he kept telling me how cool it was, but I couldn't see it from a visual standpoint. It was kind of you couldn't see anything. And I had this guy who's a UI guy that we'd worked with in the past, and I called him up. I'm like, hey man, I need you to come out here and help us with this because Todd's really good at making things work, but they're ugly, right? We need something that looks awesome. And so we called him up and And he told me, he's like, I can't, because he's like, I've been spending the last 6 years just, building this front end web developing tool. And he's like, I'm a complete competitor with you. I'm like, I don't know, I don't care. Like, I need you anyway. So I offered him a crazy amount of money. He flew out to Boise and he built our entire UI for the first version of ClickFunnels. But I'm not sure if you had. I think you might have had the first version of it.
Yeah.
And he had that. And anyway, and so we did our initial beta under that, and it worked really good. But it was static. You couldn't move things on the page, and it was kind of, you had templates, you could edit them, and it is what it was. And then like 3 months later, Dylan, the guy that built the UI, he messaged me, he's like, hey, do you want to see I'm finally done my website builder, do you want to see it? And he sent me a link to it, and it was what is now the front end editor of ClickFunnels. And I was like, oh man, like, you can do anything with it. I was like, anyway, I was just like, this is the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, if you took our backend ClickFunnels and this editor and plugged them together, and most people don't even know this story actually, like, if you plug these things together, we would have the greatest product on planet Earth. And I said, what's it going to take for you to do that? And we had to bribe him and give him ownership and equity, and I'm so grateful we did. And he came in, and they spent the next month integrating the two things. And now, if you've played with it, the editor is amazing. You can build anything you can dream of. Any website I can go find online, I can make it inside ClickFunnels easily by myself. And then the whole back-end infrastructure, the funnels and the sequencing and the analytics and everything that Todd built, and kind of plug these things together. And it's been amazing. We launched it about 6 or 7 months ago now. And I don't know if you know this, we're over 5,000 active members, and it's growing, and it's so fun to see how it's changed people's businesses, where things that would take 6 months to build now, people can do in an afternoon, and it's changed my business. I literally, when we get done with this, I'm going to be logging in and building something. I'm working on this project I'm really excited about, and so it's exciting. Like, you don't have to have tons of people and staff and resources. Like, I feel like it gives us all the power to do things. And so for me, it was like, I don't think I could have done this book without ClickFunnels, because it would have been like this concept and people like, oh, sweet. But the last chapter, I have like 2 pages, just like, after you map this out, log in ClickFunnels, this is how it works. And I feel like it's made this a reality for people. It wasn't just like, oh, that'd be really cool, but like, now I actually have the tool to be able to actually implement whatever I just created. Do it in a really cool way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, man. Like, when right, and this is me just being real and transparent. So when I first got when you first gave me access to it, like, I was like, I wasn't sure what to make of it. At the time, you guys were rolling out upgrades so quick that like, it was buggy. There were some bugs. And so I was like, I can't, I can't recommend it just yet, because I'm not 100%, like, jacked about it and comfortable with it. And there were a couple things, like, I think, right, I reached out to you and we talked a little bit about Infusionsoft, and then I recorded a little video that made its way, and some stuff got changed. And then I went back a little bit later. This was, whatever, a month or 2 into it, and I was still, like, a little hesitant. And just fast forward to today, and it was funny. I was just talking to a client earlier on a client call, and I think it was the first time that I really just said, like, yeah, it's a rockin' tool, man, and we've just been using it more and more, and it's almost like, it's kind of funny. It reminds me in a lot of ways, dude, like, because we were, I used to use a little bit Lead Pages. I have a relationship with Clay. I think he's a great guy. He's done some great things. I was never a massive fan of Lead Pages, just because, you were so limited by what you could do, that I didn't want my stuff to look like everybody else's, and so we tended to build things internally with OptimizePress, and I even got good at OptimizePress to the point where I was, like, really kind of comfortable with it. And so when I went over to and started playing around with ClickFunnels a little bit more, it was weird, right? And I was like, just like weird. And it reminds me of when I first went from a PC to a Mac. And I was like, this is, like, weird, man. Like, I'm not used to this. Like, and then, right, like, after a while, I just continued to use the Mac, and then started to like it more and more. And then it was like, when I went back to the PC for something, and I was like, I can never use this again, man. Like, it almost became like, I tell people, like, you put a PC next to a Mac today, and it's like a toy. It really is like a toy. And right? And so now I go back into, you know, Optimize Press, and I still use it, and I still enjoy it, and there are certain things that we use it for, but I'm like, you know, I'm like trying to expand things, and I'm like, oh wait, it can't do that. I need to go in and do like the spacing 10. Let me see how it looks. 20. How does it look? 30, right? Whereas with ClickFunnels, I'm just like drag it over, drag it down, and move things. And so you've really done, man, a superb job, dude. With it really is it's an awesome tool, and I'm excited to continue to see you guys evolve with it. And
we have some big updates coming out in the next 30 days. Anyway, I can't tell much, but you guys will be blown away. It's exciting. So, and we're having tons of fun with it. It's like a party every day.
That's cool, man. So talk a little bit about, let's kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about the book funnel. And so I know that you did some new stuff with the book funnel. You know, we can talk a little bit about, you know, funnel stacking and kind of what you've done there, but share kind of what you did differently in this funnel and kind of what led you to do what it is that you did and your thinking behind it. So talk a little bit about some of the different elements that you incorporated into your most recent funnel.
Cool. And one thing I want to mention for everyone watching, like I teach a lot about a concept we call funnel hacking. Like it's what I do. I buy everyone's products so I can see their funnel. Like what are they doing? And if nothing else, like it's worth $7.95 shipping and handling to funnel hack my funnel. Like it wasn't just something I just threw up overnight. Like there's a lot of psychology and thought and things that went into that. So nothing else, like when you buy it, go slow and watch the process. Like you'll learn as much from watching it as you will from reading the book. Like that's a big key that I always try to share with people. Like watch the process. If you buy it from me, especially me or you, like I don't know many people that study this stuff and are as crazy about it as me or you. Like if you buy anything from you or me, like go slowly and take notes and record when I buy anyone's product, I record the sales video, and I have my brother take it and transcribe it, and then I've got because I want to see everything, like why they did it, because as soon as you know that, like it's really easy to replicate it and just change things out for your product. But it's anyway. So so kind of some of the stuff and everything in this funnel is built in ClickFunnels. So anything that you see in there, like you can do in ClickFunnels too. But basically, the initial offer was a free plus shipping, as you guys know, which I'm a big fan of because I think it gives you the ability to get your best product in somebody's hand. But it also, I don't know about you, but like I buy tons of ebooks and digital things online, and I never look at any of them. Like I should. But like this, like shows up and it's in your hand, and then it's there. It's the same thing. This one, like people get it, and it sits there and it's sitting on their desk, and just all the time, like people see it, and it keeps reminding them of you. Which that's like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
I like having something free, so we did free plus shipping, and then one of the things that I love doing is called an order form bump. And you'll see that in there as you fill out step 1 in the thing. Step 1 will ask for your shipping address, and step 2 will ask for your credit card. And after your credit card, there's a little field there that has like something like, or do you want the audiobook version too? ? If so, for an extra $37, we'll give you the audiobook version plus a bonus chapter called The Dream 100: How to Get Unlimited Clients for just $37. Click this if you want to add that to your order. And
by the way, do I have to order the book to get access to these goodies?
Oh yeah. You got to buy another copy.
Darn you.
It's funny because like I had that idea for the audiobook. This is like the reality. Everyone thinks I'm like super polished, but this is the reality of what happened. A week ago, I had this probably 10 days ago, I had this idea like, wouldn't that be cool to have an audiobook version as like the order form bump? Like how cool would that be? I'm like, well, I don't need to make an audiobook version. So I go to Google, I type in like Boise recording studio. I call like 20 guys in Boise. One guy's like, I can get you in tomorrow. And I was like, I need the recordings back by this weekend because I'm launching on Tuesday. And he's like, that's not possible. I'm like, I will pay you whatever it takes, but I need you to turn them around. He's like, okay. So I go down to the studio, and this book should take like 2 or 3 days to read. I sat down and read it for 9 hours straight, and it was like I was about to die at the end of it. And they spent the next like 4 or 5 days editing it and making it perfect so we could get this in time for the order form bump. So anyway.
Did your voice hold up for the full like 9 hours? At the end, did you sound like Barry White or something? Were you like?
I probably do. Don't fast forward to the end. Like, yeah. I learned like singers that like put lemon stuff in their drinks. I do all that, trying to keep my vocal cords. And the guy's like, he's like, I've done a lot of books before. But he's like, you're the first person that read a whole book in a day.
That is crazy.
But we had that just in time, and it's really people love that because the book doesn't ship until April 21st. That's when we get it from the publisher and can ship it out. But the audiobook you can get immediately and start listening to it tonight, which is kind of cool. So that was the order form bump, which is converting really well. I think we've got, it's under 30%. I don't know the numbers. It's like 20-something, 26, 27% are taking the order form bump, which from a front-end revenue standpoint is awesome. Anyway, it's awesome.
So you know what? I want to jump in and ask you a question about that. I know that you're a big proponent of the order form bump, and can you just share, like, with everybody and really with me? I would love to hear your kind of perspective on this. What do you think makes a good order form bump? A high converting order form bump. How do you begin to think about what that bump offer should be?
The biggest thing is you have to be able to explain it in one sentence. Like, if it's complicated at all, it doesn't work. So for me, the order form bump was, hey, you got the book. Do you want the audiobook? Boom. With this one, it was like, hey, here's the book right here. Do you want the template we call it? Do you want our Commission Crusher template? It works really good. Like, it's got to be something that's just like, oh yeah, it's kind of like your shopping cart, right? You're buying your groceries, you're walking down, and you're about to check out, and then you're like, oh sweet, I want some gum. Boom. Like, it's got to be like impulse, like super easy. It can't be really expensive. It's got to be. I found like $37 to $47 range is about as high as I can go on it. We have another one that's for our perfect webinar. I sell the script, which is a script and a DVD, and then the bump is like the PowerPoint slides that they can use to do it. So it's all like, it's gonna be very easy. Like, doesn't need any explanation. Just like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to have too type offer. If you can get something like that, that's the magic. Because you only have like a sentence to explain to them what it is, and if it's more than that, then it just doesn't work.
Cool.
So that's kind of the key. And what's cool, like when the first time we did this, we've done a lot of like $37 offers. We've done a lot of free plus shipping things. And like when we do, like, let's say it's a free plus shipping versus a $37 offer, we'll sell on average like 3 times as many of the free plus shipping from the same traffic, right? And so we get more customers here, but less front end revenue. So we had this order form bump. On average, about a third of the people who buy the free plus shipping take that. And so what happens is we get 3 times as many customers, but exactly the same front end revenue as if we sold a $37 product.
So have you, in your tests, have you found that to be the case? You found to be the case that even though you're like, because of the order form bump, you are seeing the revenue is the same, except now you've got multiples of the clients, of customers going into the rest of the funnel.
Exactly, yeah. 3 times, and we see almost 0% drop in conversions, because if you look at where it fits, it's after they put their credit card in, before the submit button, like that spot right there. So they've already committed. They've already, wallet's coming out. They've already pulled a credit card. They committed that far, and then it's like, we don't like. There's no drop in conversion by having it there. And again, about on average, we've had up to 40-50%, and we had down to like 12%. On average, about 30% right now in all of our tests. If you look at the average, are taking that. Brad Costanzo did the same thing with his. He had almost identical percentage take the bump as ours. And yeah, it's just 3 times as many customers, same front end revenue. So.
And have you before you continue, have you done any testing with a bump offer on a higher price program, like adding, like, in other words, let's say you've got a product that's $499 or $999. Have you tested putting a bump offer on the order form where the bump offer is a percentage of the main product that they're buying?
I'm
just curious.
Okay. No, I never have. And I think the reason why I haven't, and this is just more maybe a mindset thing with me, like the same reason why people always ask me, like, do you do upsells on your webinars and on your backend things? And the answer is no, I don't. Like, I only do upsells on my front end funnels because I need that to acquire customer break even. After they're there, I sell them the thing that it is what it is, and I like that because I feel like it's cleaner, and I feel like it maintains that relationship a little bit better, especially if it's like a high ticket thing. Usually, you're selling a high ticket thing, it's like, I'm giving you, here's the farm, right? And if I'm like, oh, but if you want, it feels kind of not right in that situation for me. And again, maybe that's just a mental thing. I'm sure.
No, I love it. I think I love that. I love your perspective on that, and I think that if everybody here really gets what you just said, that you're using the upsell process, the upsell sequence, to be able to afford to pay more to acquire customers. That's right. The purpose of adding adding in the whole upsell process, the whole add-on offers, whatever you want to call it, is to increase transaction value so that you can actually afford to acquire customers. The reality is that without the typical upsell sequence, add-on offer sequence, whatever you want to call it, it would be extremely difficult to be able to break even on the front end with the cost of media today. And so, no, man, I love your perspective, dude. I think that's spot on.
Cool. Yeah, and then after I acquire them, again, the secondary funnel, third funnel, I sell way softer on those, and it's just more like, again, it's relationship. Like I want them to have an amazing experience, and that's going to keep them ascending up the value ladder, which is what chapter 2, right? It keeps them ascending up if they keep having a good experience. And so I don't. At the initial contact, I want to make sure the experience is just awesome each step of the way. And if it is, they'll just keep on ascending, and I'll make more money, I'll make less from a bump and more from them ascending to the next level and spending the more money. So that's kind of my mindset behind it. So,
yeah.
So do you mind if I pick your brain on a couple things too? Like I don't want to lose this opportunity either.
Sure.
Because I know you've got. Again, I was telling you this before we started. Like it's funny because in everyone's business is that you see parts of it, right? It's like the whole tip of the iceberg. I know parts of your business, but I don't know all the other inner workings. And I love if you would share, for me, kind of like what your the funnel stack we talked about earlier, like traditionally, we would write people what's a front end funnel, and then from where are you taking people? What's your progress and your mindset on that?
Yeah, and so I'll tell you that. And I know that you had asked what's the primary funnel that we use, or our number one funnel. And so I'll kind of take a step back for 1 second and say that the marketing funnel automation brand, it's kind of funny. I think it's a little bit over 2 years old, give or take, I think. And the whole MFA brand, marketing funnel automation brand, really came about by accident. So a friend of mine, Chris Brisson, who is the founder of Call Loop. So he routinely gave me access to all of his software applications like Call Loop and Auto Teleseminar and all these things. He would just give it to me. And one day I said to him, hey dude, what can I do for you, man? Can I do a webinar or something like that for your customers? We've got this funnel that is producing $24 a lead. Do you want me to share what we're doing in that funnel with your customers? And he said, yeah, that would be great. Now, at the time, I wasn't doing anything any longer in the IM space. I had, Rich Sheffrin and I were, great friends, still great friends. I said to him, it's not, I'm running my own companies, and I had 3 companies that we were running under one roof. And I was trying to do the marketing for Strategic Profits for him, and it just wasn't fair to any one entity for me to continue doing that. So I jumped out. That's when we brought Tom Beal in to take over kind of as president of Strategic Profits, and so I'm back doing my stuff, all of which is outside of the kind of the online marketing, business development space as that we're both familiar with. So I did this webinar for Chris's customers and users, and of course, I had nothing to sell in the end. So it was 90 minutes of pure content, just breaking down this entire funnel from A to Z. And in the end, I basically am hey, hope you guys and gals got value, go to it. Got off, and 15 minutes later, I get a text message from Chris's partner, and at the time, Trevor. And he says to me, that was great, amazing. He said, we're actually getting complaints. People are pissed that you didn't have something to offer them, which is the only time that has ever happened to me in my entire career. Since never again has that happened to me. And so that's when I went back and I started to think. That's when I said to Rich, I said, look, man, and this is right. This is me being totally transparent. I said, look, there is this idea of funnels is really starting to gain momentum. There's a buzz about funnels. People are starting to use the term funnels, and there's a gap in the marketplace where nobody has staked their claim as the funnel guy, as the go-to funnel expert. And I said, I'm going to stake my claim on that, which I think there's a lesson for everybody in and of itself right there, in that you don't, like, right, the old Dan Kennedy, don't wait to be appointed, stake your claim, find the gap. And so go back. I decide that I'm going to launch the marketing funnel automation coaching program. And so I go back a couple months later to the same audience. We make an offer in the end. I think at the time it was $1,000 or $1,500 maybe, I forget, for this program. And we were blessed to sell out the spaces before the end of the webinar. And so that was kind of the genesis and the launch of the MFA brand. And so the coaching program was high level, right? In that it was more strategic, talking about marketplace sophistication, big idea, segmentation, behavioral triggers, and this is going back, 2 years ago. And so, and this is all leading to an answer to your question. And so what happened was we got a bunch of folks, a bunch of marketers that I respected that said, like, hey, I would love to kind of share your program with my list. They said, we would love to promote it. We'd love to kind of better understand what it is that you're teaching so that we can kind of, craft the copy and support you in the biggest way. They went in and we got a lot of feedback that was like, I don't know if my list is ready for this. Like, it's so good and so advanced that I'm not sure if my list is ready for this. So I decided that I was going to create a program a year ago, after we had like a half a dozen marketers that said, hey, do you have anything that's a little bit more newer marketer friendly? Long story real short, created this program a year ago, the six-figure funnel formula. We rolled it out with a launch. It was an awesome experience, and exhausting and draining, and brought me to the brink of a breakdown. And then we turned that funnel, that launch funnel, we tweaked it and we turned it into an evergreen process. And so, in a nutshell, my goal is always to bring people into the marketing funnel automation coaching program. And so sometimes people are ready for that. We've had a lot of higher level marketers that go right into that program. And then we've had other marketers that have come in through the six-figure funnel formula, which is one specific type of funnel. It's a lot less tactical, a lot less strategic, and a lot more tactical. And then ultimately our goal is to lead them into the marketing funnel automation partnership coaching program. That program is all about equipping marketers to understand how to effectively design any type of front-end customer acquisition funnel. After that, the MFA Partnership Coaching Program, we have what's called Mentor to a Million. And Mentor to a Million is only available and only open to graduates of the MFA program. So the only people that are ever offered the opportunity to enroll in Mentor to a Million are people that have gone through the MFA program and they've graduated, they've completed the program. And so that is all about developing the back-end systems, methods, processes, what you do with unconverted leads, and then beyond Mentor to a Million, there's what's called the A Players Roundtable, which is a fairly new program, which is really it's kind of like, let's call it the Mentor to a Million program plus mastermind with live events. And so those are behind the scenes things. And the reason why I do it that way is because I want everybody to go through the Marketing Funnel Automation Partnership Coaching Program to make sure that they've got that foundation, that to make sure that like they understand what I'm all about, what what we want to see in funnels, and so that's that's the long version of what we do. Did that hopefully answer your question a bit?
Yeah, that's cool. See, I knew about the front and the very back, but none of the stuff in the middle. So that's kind of cool to see how you tie those together.
Yeah. Kind of and it's kind of interesting. And how about yours? Kind of share with everybody, like, I know that you've shifted gears and you've changed the focus of your business, and you've got your you've got Ignite and you've got what is it, the Inner Circle, right? Those are two different programs, correct?
Yeah. So for my model is we create front end offers, which is bait to get people in, right? And so we've got 4 or 5 funnels like that bring people in, and then after that, I try to get people. Again, I usually try to send people up a value ladder, right? So first, like these front end products, like the books and CDs and cool things like that, that give them a really cool impression, really cool result right out of the gate. From there, I try to transition people to our middle of the value ladder, which is the webinar, which is the webinar. It's called Instant Funnel Hacks, which we sell Clickfunnels, and it's cool because that webinar, people love it because it teaches them this funnel hacking concept. Like, if you want to be successful, find someone with a successful funnel, look at it, log in Clickfunnels, model it, and then how to buy traffic, right? So that's kind of a thing, and so we do that webinar as kind of the second thing we push people through, and that gives them access to Clickfunnels, gets them all started, and then from there we push people into our hiring coaching, which we actually just raised the prices of all of those on Monday. So we have our Ignite program, which is kind of similar to what you talked about. Like, we have a very structured process now everyone goes through because I want everyone on the same path. They go through that structured program. The way we set up is kind of cool. Is they go through the first training module, and then they have an accountability partner on our team who passes it off. And if they pass it off, we send them $100. They go to the second one, they pass it off, we send them $100. And after they finish all 10 of them, we've sent them back $1,000. They can use that now to invest in advertising to take it to the next level. And then from there, we upgrade people to our Inner Circle, which is our higher end mastermind programs. And then from there, we have another program called the 2 Comma Club, and we've got 2 people in that right now. And that's where I actually build out the whole funnel for them, and then we rev share on what's happening on it. And so we've got 2 people in there. It's kind of the test right now to see how it all goes. They pay $100,000 up front plus a percentage, and that's kind of where we take people to.
And that's awesome, man. Yeah, and I know, and I've I pay attention to everything that you do and try to understand, your the strategy behind each step. And yeah, and I love watching you do your thing. And so you've made some kind of you shifted your focus in your business over the last handful of years. Clickfunnels aside for 1 second, but you've definitely moved more of your focus towards your programs, your higher ticket programs. Is there, what made you do that? What was this thinking, the psychology behind really focusing on moving everybody to these higher level, higher priced, more intensive programs?
Yeah, so this is, I don't know if this is the answer you're looking for, but the reality is I used to have some high end stuff. Our old high end was $5,000 where our high end was, but our bait was wrong. Like, we were tracking all these people that we struggle with, and I'd go to our high end at the time events, and it was like I was miserable. Like, the people I talked like funnels, and they're like, how do I make money online? I'm like, so for 4 years we had no back, and we cut it and got rid of all of it. And then when we put out this was the beginning of it. When we put this out about 2 years ago, it attracted different people. And so at first we were having people come in, and then we did an event, and I showed up at the event, and all the people were awesome. And I was like, these are like my people. Like, I talk about a nerdy marketing thing, and they're excited. And I was like, okay, if we get the right, and that's when the bait thing clicked for me. I was like, this book literally repelled all the people I didn't want and brought in the people we wanted. Then we jacked up our prices, which made it so that it was out of reach of the people we didn't want. And suddenly all the best people came in. And they came to events, and now it was like fun because I got to hang out with cool people who have cool businesses. And for me, that's where it changed. It was just like, I want more people here to hang out with that are awesome, that we can share ideas. And so that's where the focus came, is just because I liked it, and I didn't like it before. So that's really the reason. Which is why it comes down to like crafting the bait the right way. You get the right person, then it becomes fun.
Very cool, man. And so, for time purposes, I want to throw just a couple of other things at you, and then, man, we'll wrap up. And this was cool, man. I definitely I've enjoyed hearing your perspective and whatnot, man. But I think one of the things, man, that I admire about you, that I love seeing, and I think that it plays such a big role in what makes you such a good entrepreneur, and I'm hoping that you can kind of shed a little light on where it comes from. But you seem to me to be somebody who is regularly willing to take risk, and that's risk with money, risk with exploring opportunities, and I know that there have been, like with all of us, there have been things that you banked on an opportunity and it didn't come to fruition, or it didn't do well at all, or you invested money into something and you lost it. And I'm curious if there's anything that you would share just about your willingness, man, to take risks over and over and over. And where does that come from, man? Like, why do you think that, like, where is that, man, in your head?
Yeah, and actually, I think I know the answer to that, because I've coached some of my clients through that. And the short answer is I am okay with the worst case scenario. And that's why I think most people fail, is they're not. They go into something, especially like new business. They got new business, new idea, and start going forward. But in the back of their mind, they have this like worst case scenario that's there, right? Like, I could lose my house, I could go bankrupt, or I could, whatever that thing is. And most people, they're so scared they don't think about it, and they try to cut it off, and they just start moving forward. But it's always there, like nagging at them. And I had a friend who called me. This is a couple years ago. Called me one night, like at 11:30 at night. And he's like, "Hey man, my business is going under. I'm like a week away from bankruptcy." And he's like, "Can you come over?" And he's a chiropractor. Come over to my clinic and let's just talk. And he's like, "Maybe you can give me some like magic marketing advice, and I can save everything." And I'm like, "Oh man, like so much pressure on me." So I get in my car, I drive over to his clinic, sit down, and he kind of tells me the situation and paints it out. It's this bleak thing, and he's just like, he's like, "So what do you got, man? What can I do to save this? I need something to turn it around." And I'm like, "Dude, like, there's no magic marketing pill that's gonna fix this." I'm like, "But what you got?" I'm like, "What you need to understand is you got to figure out what's the worst case scenario." And he's like, "Worst case scenario, I go bankrupt, I lose my clinic, I got to move, my in-laws are gonna think less of me," and start going through all this stuff, like all these things. And so I wrote it all down. I said, you got to become okay with that. As soon as you are completely okay with that, now you're going to have the ability to go and step and start running forward. But until you are, like, that's why your business is struggling. Is like you're so scared of all those things that you're not taking the risk. You have to be successful. I'm like, and you may fail, and so that's okay. But you got to be okay with that list of what the worst case scenario is. And if you are, then who cares? I think you go bankrupt. Who cares? I'm like, the American government created bankruptcy for entrepreneurs like you and me. Like, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. Well, what if I can move my house? Do you like your house that much? Like, honestly, is it that big of a deal, right? And we went through the entire list, and finally he's like, you know what? Like, you're right. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And he went out there and he saved his practice, and like he's got a thriving practice now. And I think that's why I've been successful at risking stuff. Is like, I don't care. Like, I'm complete. If I lost everything today, I'd be like, all right, whatever. Like, it's not. I'm not I don't associate myself with that anymore. There was a time when I associated success with me, and there was a time that I struggled because of that. But I'm at a point in my life now where I don't really care. I'm more about my family, my kids, and this is just like a fun game I get to play every day. And so I'm okay with whatever the worst case scenario is. And because of that, it's freed me up to really have fun and try things. If it doesn't work, then I don't really care that much. So I think that's the key.
That's awesome, man. Do you think though, did that did that come from just maturity, or was that something that you like strategically worked on in your head, like, in other words, becoming, or did that just happen organically, like as you got older and your family grew and you just looked at the world differently? Like, I'm just curious if that, because the idea, like, I get it, but just playing the other side of the coin, I know that there are people listening and they're like, well, that's a lot easier said than done. Like, what if the worst case scenario terrifies me?
Yeah, I think for me, I think what happened for me is I actually went through my worst case scenario 5 years ago. Us entrepreneurs don't always think everything through, and I had some ideas and started running. One day I woke up and I had 100 employees working for me, and then everything collapsed. Like our merchant accounts got frozen and people quit. It was just a perfect storm of like everything collapsing. And I remember I had to go through what was my worst case scenario, not because I was okay with it, but like I was forced to, like, Russell, you got to leave this office. We're going to sue you. You got the government's come after, like all these things. And I was just like, huh, this sucks. And I remember I was so like, I had so much fear associated with it. And then for like 2 or 3 days I was frozen up, where I was just like, I couldn't react. I had so much fear. And I remember I'm grateful to call him a friend. Tony Robbins called me up during this process, and I didn't answer the phone because I was doing something else. We left a message, said, "Hey Russell, I heard you're going through hard times. If you need my help, this is what I can do. Just let me know." And I remember I listened to that message and I was like, now that's my worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, like I can do that thing with Tony that would save my butt. And like for me, like that became the worst case scenario. I focused on like, there's my worst case scenario. So now I can get to work, and through that process where I was able to save our company and all the stuff that kind of came from it. So I think for me it was like I got forced through it once, and I realized that that's what froze me up. And as soon as I had a new worst case scenario that I was okay with, then it freed me up, and I was like, man, like, so I don't know if we all have to go through that and become okay with it, or if you can like do it more organically and not have to just screw up like I did,
Yeah.
It's always better to learn from other people's mistakes. But I went through, man. I went through it. I having to fire 80 people in one day, having the government come after me, landlords come out, like everything, and it was just like, like, it has sucked, but we made it through, and it's like you're stronger afterwards. So who knows?
Very cool, man. Very interesting. And how about the last thing? I know, one of the things that you're kind of, I don't know if I want to say like known for, but one of the things that like I've seen from you for sure is your work ethic is just is phenomenal, right? Like your willingness to do what most others just aren't willing to do. And I know that that's like a quote, somebody said that, right? That successful people are willing to do the things that the average aren't willing to do. And where does that come from, man, for you? Is that, I'm sure it has to do a lot with your background in wrestling and whatnot, but like, you really feel like that is a major part of why you've been so successful up to this point, man, just because you're willing to, if it's 3 a.m., if it's 4 a.m., if it's, I think more often than not, dude, when I listen to your podcast, like, it's a rarity when it's like, I don't know if I've ever heard you be like, hey, it's Russell, it's 10 a.m., and, I'm just chilling. Most of the time it's like, it's 4 a.m., it's pouring out, it's freezing, and I hope I make it home.
That's awesome. I think a couple things. One, I'd say is I love this so much. It's an addiction. So that helps. Second thing, when I was growing up, I remember I was wrestling, and I loved wrestling more than I loved this marketing. Like, it was everything in my life. Like, outside of my family, but like wrestling was my thing. Like, I still like at night miss it. Like, I long for it because I loved it so much. And I remember my sophomore year, no, it was my junior year. First year I won the state title. I won it, and at the end of the year we had our awards banquet. I remember my dad got up on stage, and he kind of spoke. He was one of our assistant coaches. He got up stage. He said, you know what? He said everyone in the room has the same opportunities. Like, everyone's there. He says, you all have the same coaches. Everything. He says that a good coach can get any kid to this level. It's like anyone can get this level. And he's like, but to be a champion, it takes something else, something you gotta have inside that's passion, or something that takes you from here to the next level. And he's like, we can't coach that. Like, that's impossible to coach. That has to come from within. And I remember like that stuck with me. That like, everyone's got coaches, everyone's got training. We all have the same opportunities here, but there's gotta be something from within that gets you to that next level. And so for me, it's just like I just love this so much. I care about the people that I serve so much. Like, if you look here at my coaching program, I use Voxer. And so these are all my coaching clients here, Voxing me. Just while we're sitting in here, I got probably 15 Voxes, and I care so much about these people. Like, I want like they send me excuse me, they send me messages. I respond back to them, and I help them. And for me, like, it fires me up so much. Like, we have this lady named Liz down in New Zealand, and she came through our program 6 months ago, and it took us 3 or 4 months to get her funnel up live. She launched it, and she's doing $50K a week right now. She's just crushing it. And it's like, awesome. Man, she messaged me after every webinar like, hey, we just did it, only closed 34,000 today, but follow-ups we should be over 60. Like, it's like upset about it. I'm like, how cool is that? Like, that's the So I don't know, I just love the market, I love the people, I love the results we get, and it just fires me up. Like right now, I hope you can see how excited I am right now. Like I love it. And so I think for you guys, you got to fall in love with the marketing and the people, and if you do that, then it makes it easy. It makes it easy to forget about time and just have fun in projects. And I don't know.
No, I dig it, man. I love it. I love being around other people, man, that are passionate. And so I love, I think it takes a unique beast, a unique animal to really be able to say, like, I get it, man. The idea that, you're so passionate and so excited about it and so just enriched by the whole process, man, that you just want to do it and do it more and help more people and see more people have breakthroughs. And so, yeah, I love seeing that from you. And so, man, for time purposes, I mean, I could go on and there's so much stuff that we can talk about, but I want to kind of, like, let's just end this bad boy. I know we've talked about this. I think that this, everybody on here hopefully has already requested and gotten their copy. If you haven't, click the button somewhere below this video and go get it. But, like, dude, let's wrap this up by, like, is there anything, man, that you want to share about this this book, man, that we haven't touched on, that, like, I know this is like a labor of love for you, man, and years and years of your career, man, have gone into this, and it is freaking just, it's so stellar, man. Is there anything that you want to leave folks with, man, as it relates to this book?
I think the biggest thing is, first off, get it, but second off, like, getting a book is good, but you got to plug it in, you got to implement it, and I tried to make it in a way where it's simple. Like, every funnel I sketch it out. I give you the sales scripts that we use. I just tried to make it as complete as possible so you can take this and have this as a guide to help get you where you want to be. And and like you said earlier, I didn't try to hold anything back. I really care about you guys as people. I care about you, the people you're serving. You saw the video that in my coaching funnel where I started crying. Like, my big thing for me is my passion is marketing, right? And I know that everyone's got different skill sets. We've got chiropractors, we've got natural doctors, we got, whatever your skill set is. Like, I can't affect the people you guys can affect, but if I can help you through this tool to get your message out to more people and help you serve more people, you'll change more people's lives. It'll change your life, and in return, it changes mine. And that's what fires me up. And so, get the book, use it, get more customers, help more people, serve more people. If you do that, then my mission's been filled. It'll help fill yours, and that's kind of it.
Awesome, man. And so, is there another book in Russell's future, or is this it, or is there another book in your future?
This is definitely it. I Tony Robbins about this. He didn't launch a book for 20 years. I'm like, why did it take you 20 more years? He's like, I didn't have anything else to say. I'm like, that's kind of, I try to put it all in there because it was so much work. Like, it's funny how much, you put together an info product. Usually it's not that hard, but this was like, I remember I got back to the editor and they're like, okay, like, this is your last set of revisions. After this, you can't touch it again. And I'm like, it's so final for me. So, like, it was more work than any other project I've ever done, and it's a labor of love, and I hope you guys love it. I hope it helps you, and yeah, let me know if it does, because I love hearing the success stories afterwards. That's fun.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we pass on. I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of of feedback and success stories from folks for sure, and I'll definitely make sure that we pass it along. And so, dude, man, I appreciate you. Like, I've actually been looking forward to this, and I was looking for an excuse to get you onto a hangout, and so the book was just a perfect opportunity for me. It was my bait to get you on here, and yeah, man, I just appreciate what you're doing. Love your perspective. Love the stuff you put out, and I'll end with this, man. Like, and this is no joke. I told a client earlier, actually the same client that I said, like, look, Clickfunnels is a rockin' tool, dude, well worth checking out. I said to him, I said, look, here's the best compliment that I can give Russell. I said, if, God forbid, something were to happen to me and you needed to go to somebody to get guidance on the development of your funnel, Russell is the guy that I would send you to. And so that's the best compliment that I can give.
Man. That's amazing. I appreciate that.
So you got it. And so thank you, Russell. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And man, go get this book. Whether get it now while you can still get it for for free. Get the book, devour it, and most importantly, like Russell said, implement. Russell's truly the transparency in this book in terms of this book really shines a light on not only what Russell does in his own business, but what Russell teaches his clients to do and how he helps others grow their business. And so what you've got in here, you really do have a roadmap. You got a blueprint. It's really up to you to, the $7, the book, that's insignificant. It's only going to mean something to you if you get it, you go through it, and then you implement what is in here. And if you do, I look forward to hearing your story because I have no doubt that it's going to be one of massive change and transformation. And so, cool. That's all she wrote. I'll talk to you guys and gals, soon with another hangout or whatever webinar or whatever we do. And so, see ya.
Awesome. Thanks, man.